Hi there, it's Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com here with number 7 on our top 10 rogue cards from M15. This one is going to be Spirit Bonds. When I first saw this card, I thought this card was a lot like Extort, but I think it's a little more powerful than Extort because one damage and 1 life versus a 1/1 white spirit creature token. In the format right now, I prefer a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying than the damage and life swing. So I do think this card is pretty powerful. It's the casting cost isn't bad at all, and the secondary ability, sacrifices spirit to give a target non-spirit creature indestructible, is pretty good as well. But in this deck, that's going to be not a good thing because all of our cards are going to be spirits. Again, I'm going to try to brew a deck around every one of the spoiler cards, so I'll show a deck here, but I just want to talk about what cards we also get from M15 that really helps this card out. So again, we're going to try to have things that either interact with creature tokens, enchantments, or spirits. So we get this triplicate spirits, which is kind of like a Court of Calling, or not Court of Calling, excuse me. Now I can't. Spectral Possessions. Spectral Possessions does 3 white spirit tokens as well, but it costs 3 white compared to 6 white. But you can convoke other cards that you have in play to actually get this out a little bit quicker. So I do think that it is viable and standard right now for 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens. I did want to see like Honor the Pure, but we do have a Spear of Heliod and also the 1/1 2 creature Hall of Triumph. Yeah, that's what's called. Hall of Triumph is the other one that is kind of an anthem type ability that we can exploit with a ton of different spirit tokens. Now, triplicate spirits does not trigger off spirit bonds, but we do want, spirit tokens in here. So another spirit creature that we get out of the set is Geist of the Moors. A 3 and flying for 3 isn't too bad. I mean, it's very comparable like a Herald of Torment, even though the toughness is a little bit weak. It can be shocked or magma sprayed, whereas Herald of Torment can't. And same thing with Drown in Sorrow. Drown in Sorrow actually really hurts this deck, but hopefully we can get them above Anthem and they can survive. So one of the cards that we are going to get them above is going to be Obelisk of Urd, and Obelisk of Urd just works perfectly in this deck, as we are going to be bringing out a ton of creatures and then convoking them to give all spirits +2/+2. So anyway, I'm going to show you the deck. So keep in mind, these aren't in the deck because they're not on MTGO at the moment, but you'd want some number of each of these in the deck. So cool thing about Obelisk of Urd, it is not a legendary artifact, so you can cast as many of these as possible. So let's just go over to the deck list. Unfortunately, in white, I think we'd want to go into a monocolored with this deck, as we want it as efficient as possible. We still have access to Mutavault, which is great in this deck, and we have cards that are pretty aggressive, one being Spirit of the Labyrinth. There should be 4 copies in here of Spirit of the Labyrinth. One accidentally got taken out here, but Spirit of the Labyrinth is a 3/1 for 2. So you have a 3/1 flyer for 3 and a 3/1 ground for 2. So right there is pretty aggressive. And then Hopeful Eidolon is a spirit with lifelink. That actually comes into effect a lot in standard right now when there's decks like Burn and Monsters. You can actually get a nice little life swing, and then it can be the difference of winning and losing the game. Then we have King Apparition. This card is so good in standard right now. There's so many Aura decks out there. Basically every deck in standard has an enchantment. We have in black, they have the Underworld Connections. In white, you have Banishing Light and Detention Sphere. And of course the Aura decks, like the Eidolon of Blossoms decks, the junk constellation decks, I guess is what they call them, are just full of enchantments for King or Apparition to kill. So like Courser Crewfix, Eidolon of Blossom, and they use Banishing Lights in that as well. So another good spirit is Eidolon of Countless Battles. It's going to get +1/+1 for each creature. It's going to get very big. And then we have Ghostblade Eidolon, which actually isn't too bad. Just double strike in the tribal, I think, is actually worth playing. And Vassal of Souls is most likely just replaced with Geist of the Moors, but you can actually use both of them as they're both spirits for the same mana cost. Then we do want a one of Nykthos Shrine of Nyx. So that would kind of be, you'd want a mix of Spirit Bonds and Obelisk of Urd and like triplet spirits to kind of finish off this deck. I mean, right now we still have 15 cards left in the deck that we need to fill. So anyway, just some other cards that I thought about using in the deck. Haunted's Plate Mail is actually a spirit. I don't know if we would quite want this in the deck as it's not aggressive enough, and usually we have creatures out. But just, just thought I'd mention it since it is a spirit. Ethereal Armor seems like it fits pretty well in this deck, as we are adding Spirit Bonds as an enchantment, and then all of these enchantment creatures here. The Ethereal Armor could actually hook it up with a Ghostblade Eyeline. That's pretty lethal. Now, we still have Door of Destinies. Door of Destinies is a lot like Obelisk of Erd, but in this case, we can't convoke in the Door of Destinies, but we can cast it for 4, and things like Nykthos Reign of Nyx can actually get these out quick. And then, of course, we'd name Spirit, and then every time we cast a Spirit card, you'd put a counter on it, and then all of your creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each counter on Door of Destinies. Again, it's just something that would make our cards start to overwhelm our opponent's cards. Of course, we have access to Spear of Heliod, which is just a nice anthem. I also said Hall of Triumph. And Banishing Light if you want to go this enchantment route. Now, speaking of enchantment route, the Eidolon of Blossoms is a spirit, and it seems like it works pretty well with the Spirit Bonds, as these are enchantment spirits that come into play, but at least, you're casting Spirit Bonds, you're going to get a card off Eidolon Blossoms, and Eidolon Blossoms is going to have multiple, with Spirit Bonds and Eidolon Blossoms, you're going to get multiple triggers off casting your enchantment, so it makes every one of your enchantment creatures, especially enchantment spirit creatures, that much better. So I thought about going into a green-white spirit list, but there really wasn't many other spirit cards out of green that were worth playing. Now, black is kind of interesting because you get access to Teysa that can put in spirit creature tokens. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you destroy it and put a 1/1 spirit token on the battlefield. So that's pretty good, but Teysa's 7 mana. She's a little hard to cast, especially with a deck that wants to curve out at around 21 lands, because your highest drop is going to be 3. I mean, your other drops, the 6 drops, can be convoked down, and then Door of Destinies is still a question mark. So you do want to just curve out very, very quickly, and I think 21 is the perfect amount. You also have access to Crypt Gas, but Crypt Gas doesn't really seem like it fits too well in this deck, even though it is a spirit with Extort. Again, you'll get another sort of trigger off every spirit that you cast. And Eidolon of Rhetoric is a spirit, not the greatest card right now in Standard. We still are in a Standard that just likes to cast 1 spell per turn, but there is a few decks that do want to cast multiple spells. This is definitely a sideboard option, but this could hurt you as much as it could hurt your opponent. And then good old Phantom General is a spirit, so it'll actually pump out, it'll get a trigger anyway off of the Spirit Bonds, and then all of your Spirit Bond tokens or tokens from the triplicate spirits will actually get +1/+1, so it's definitely a card you consider putting into this deck. Lastly, there's Obsidian Ghost Council. He's also a spirit, but again, I don't really think he fits in this deck, and yeah, Obsidian, you'd want to build a deck that's more of a control route and use him as the finisher rather than just stuff him in a spirit deck. I also thought about Heliod, because Heliod is something that can continue to put out enchantment creature tokens. So if you do go the Island of Blossoms route, you could definitely stuff Heliod in there and whatnot and make a deck that way. So hope you enjoyed this list. We'll have our number 6 card coming up here shortly. This has been Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.